Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I start a new series of videos exploring the ancient history of physical culture and the roots of bodybuilding and weightlifting. As many of you know, I recently began collaborating with Professor Conor Heffernan of the H.J. Lucha Starck Centre of Physical Culture and Sports at the University of Texas in the USA. And in a series of interviews, we will be discussing the ancient history of physical culture. Today I will present the first of several interviews where I pose the question, just how old is physical culture? Did it stem from the Greeks and Romans, or is it as old as time itself? For example, what factors gave rise to its genesis? Was it biological? And to me, that's a really important question. Was it born from innate biological instinct, from a desire to be stronger than the next person, or was it a case of survival of the fittest? Born through military preparation for war, as an example. These questions and much more will be addressed in this special interview with Professor Conor Heffernan in today's video. Enjoy. Oh, there we go. Yeah, hi, Conor. It's an absolute. Oh, should I call you Professor Heffernan, or is Conor fine?
No, definitely Conor. Definitely Conor.
It's an absolute pleasure to make your acquaintance from one academic to another. It's just, yeah, a real honor as well to speak to you. Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to start this collaboration. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
Yeah, no problem. As I mentioned, I wanted to talk today about mainly the ancient history of physical culture and your perspective on it, seeing that, of course, you work with the Starck Centre. Can I ask firstly, you're in the US, aren't you, right now?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm an Irish academic who has primarily looked at Irish, British, and Indian physical culture. And as of August 2019, I've been working with the Starck Centre. So I'm a very recent addition and obviously very, very happy to be here.
Yeah, can you imagine? So you said you've worked on Irish, English, and Indian physical culture.
Yeah, that's right. So I've just finished my PhD, which looked at Irish and British physical culture. And then before that, I've looked at Indian club swinging and physical culture in India in the 19th century, and how what was happening in India filtered into British exercise and British fitness in the 19th century.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, through your studies, I guess one of the questions I get asked again and again, and something I'm always interested in, is, I guess, in finding out opinions such as yourself, experts such as yourself, on the history of physical culture. My number one question is, how old do you really think physical culture, that movement, really started? How old would you think that is? Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that I think it ties into almost the history of sport as well. That there does seem to be something innate within the human psyche that wants to see who is the strongest, that wants to have, some sort of strength competition. So in terms of physical culture, as we understand it, gyms and gymnasiums, it's a couple of thousand years old, but there's always that hunch that undoubtedly there was a group of individuals picking up stones, picking up the nearest heaviest object, and see who could do it. And I think when you look at rural physical culture, so what farmers were doing 200 or 300 years ago, where they're lifting up stones, lifting up the hay bales, lifting up the carts, it kind of speaks to this innate love of strength and competition, within human societies, as old as time itself.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I mean, I always, when I was in Australia, because you can probably tell my accent is Australian.
I guessed.
So I was actually born in Peru, and at 5 years of age to move to Sydney, Australia. I remember doing bushwalks, and one of the things I loved seeing was trying to creep up to kangaroo families. And you'd always see a couple of young kangaroo males having a go at each other, just, fighting. And I think you're absolutely right. It's just innate in nature overall. I mean, you see it in animals, and therefore you see it in humans. It's just this competitive nature is always existent. I think you're right. So
Yeah, and I think obviously as well, the further you go back, physical culture is innately tied into military culture and warfare.
absolutely,
So the
yeah,
stronger soldiers tend to do better in battle. So I
yeah.
mean, there's obviously an interplay there as well. Like fighting, the stronger, the heavier, the faster tends to win. So we
Mm.
suspect that there would have been some sort of training, you know, underpinning that. The difficulty is finding out what exactly they were doing.
Yeah, that's very true. And that kind of brings me to the second kind of question for today, or the second topic. Um, Resistance training, this competitive nature, filtering into the military or having a high priority in military.
Mm.
How old would you say then, uh, in terms of the nation that would have had the most ancient history with physical culture? Which nation or group of people would you say, um, we can really trace the history to millennia ago with,
Yeah.
you know?
Again, from my own research, the two strands that we would look at would be those kind of cultures that came before ancient Greece, ancient Rome,
Yeah.
ancient Sparta. We do have heavy stones that were being lifted. We do have forms of club swinging and calisthenics that were used by soldiers in what would be modern day Italy and Greece and North Africa primarily. So that's looking at,
Oh,
I suppose, Europe and Africa. We know in pre-millennial India that religious texts are talking about certain types of physical activity and physical training.
yeah.
So I'm sure there are physical artifacts that still exist in India. I'm kind of ignorant on that front, but I know from ancient religious Indian texts, we're talking thousands of years, where people are talking about heavy club swinging and some
Hmm.
forms of wrestling and gymnastics. In Europe, we know from kind of scant recordings, even in things like the Iliad, we have stories of gymnastics and calisthenics. And we also have rocks that, with inscriptions on them saying, so and so lifted me in the year X, Y, and Z. So it was always tied to the military. But when we are talking about in terms of what is left over, thousands of years ago, which is incredible. And again, it ties back to what we're saying. Just there's something in the human psyche that wants to move.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So from this first segment of the interview I had with Professor Conor Heffernan, I definitely have to agree with him, and definitely agree that physical culture is a very ancient activity, old as time itself, stemming from our biological nature, our competitiveness, our natural rivalry, our desire to be the fittest, that whole instinct of survival of the fittest, that it definitely stems from there. Just like other organisms on this planet, we have that same instinct. It is no doubt then that that instinct, that rivalry that naturally exists in our biology, in our nature, led to war. And with warfare, of course, comes more sophisticated methods of training, improvements in the methods of warfare, such as martial arts, weaponry, tactics, and of course, physical culture, the development of the soldier, of the person, in terms of strength. And of course, from that comes the art of bodybuilding, the art of the human physique. And it is a very natural evolution that has occurred, of course, throughout history. Now, if you've purchased Sandal's system of physical training and have started the light dumbbell system, I highly recommend Eugene Sandal's second book, Strength and How to Obtain It, where he really does clarify these issues that a lot of the beginners were actually facing, and that is this confusion of how much appropriate tension one should apply when performing the light dumbbell system. This book goes into great detail. And another excellent book, as I mentioned earlier, was by W.R. Pope, The Science and Art of Physical Development, where he gives hints and tips for every single exercise of the light dumbbell system. And I really think it really does help in the performance of the exercises of the light dumbbell system. And finally, another great little book that is now available is the original booklet that used to come with the spring grip dumbbell set, and that is this booklet right in here in the middle, Instructions for Using Sandal's Spring Grip Dumbbells. And I think that although we don't have spring grip dumbbells nowadays available, by simply substituting that with a light dumbbell of 3 to 5 pounds, I'm pretty sure that by combining the information of these books, you would be able to get great results and benefit from performing the light dumbbell system. All of these books are available on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com. So I do hope you've enjoyed this very first interview with Professor Conor Heffernan of the Starck Centre. And of course, I will be bringing you much more in subsequent videos where we discuss, I guess, the ancient traditions of now the different nations as physical culture evolved throughout the millennia and then until more recent times. The very first nations we'll be looking at, of course, are those from the Middle East and of Asia, seeing that there is still documented evidence that proves that physical culture was occurring, or at least the development, the evolution of physical culture was already occurring in these nations millennia ago. So we're talking about India, China, Egypt, and even Persia. Here we have, for example, a fantastic image of Chinese warriors training, lifting heavy stones. And of course, in China, they have a great, rich history of martial arts going back millennia. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm, leave me your comments, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, please donate via PayPal, become a patron, or visit my website for out-of-print books and courses on old school bodybuilding, and contact me via email if you wish to collaborate or pass on your relics and literature. Okay, that's it for me. Hope you've enjoyed the video. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now. To take full advantage of my collaboration with NSP Nutrition and Old School Labs, please visit their websites. For NSP Nutrition, use the code GB20 for a 20% discount, and for Old School Labs, use the code Bookworm12 for a 12% discount of all their products. And for an entertaining look at the history of bodybuilding's supplement industry, I would highly recommend watching Subs the Movie, which I have collaborated in, available at Amazon Prime and Vimeo.
Hi everybody, I just want to recommend this phenomenal book, Vince's Secret Locker, volume number 2 by Carl Coyne. I've been looking at this for about 4 weeks and I can't put it down. If you get a chance, check it out. He also has a part 1 that I highly recommend also. Vince was the trainer to the stars and had an amazing, interesting gym that today there's still not equipment like it around. It was all made out of wood. He'll be on our radio show coming up probably in the next couple weeks or so. Have a great day, and again, highly recommend this book.